as much time covering that because y'all are good. But so XP as a resource. This is what in my brain this is labeled as XP as a resource. So you can at any time you can spend 1 XP to re-roll any roll in the game. Doesn't even have to be yours. So XP is luck points ad nauseum. Yeah, so if you've got 32 XP, you've got 32 luck points to spend on anybody's roll. And that sounds cool, but you also need 16 of those mother truckers.
So weird.
Yeah, it is weird, right? So here's the other thing you can do with a single XP. You can refuse a GM intrusion.
That's the first thing I noticed.
I mentioned earlier the system encourages you to bully players. I meant that sort of jokingly. So one of the things that's hardest for me to grasp is the concept of GM intrusions. Um, so like y'all, like we do, it's not a rule. Like we do sometimes in D&D, if you roll a 1, something bad happens to you, right? If you roll a 1, a GM intrusion happens in this system. But the thing about GM intrusions is that they don't just happen on ones. The system encourages me to intrude on you guys sort of at my leisure. Um, the book does warn you not to do it more than like once or twice a session. But the idea is that at some point I step in and go, no, actually, something goes wrong. Um, you guys do get experience for that, okay? So if Spencer tries to do something and I go, actually, something goes wrong, Spencer gets an experience point, and he gets to give one more experience point to someone else.
Unless noted otherwise.
No, that's you
Because some
now.
focus do that. But damn, I had a question about that, but it slipped me. Sorry, go ahead. Come back. It'll come back.
So to come full circle, if Spencer really did not, go ahead.
So you can spend an XP point to refuse that intrusion, but I get an XP point if you give one. So can they cancel each other out, or do I have to wait for like another one?
No, so if you refuse the intrusion, you don't get that XP.
Okay.
That's what I was
So
thinking.
You can just not take that XP. All right.
But
Yeah,
I'm at a
full
net
circle.
either gain or loss. I'm net even if I refuse it.
Well, you don't get that XP. So if you're trying to do something and I say actually something goes wrong and you spend a point to keep that intrusion from happening,
Okay.
you're not going to get that XP you would have got from that intrusion. And so whoever else would have got one isn't going to get one either.
Are we supposed to know what our intrusion trigger is? Because I saw like the bolded text and I did not read it because it said GM intrusion. I was like, oh damn, am I not supposed to be reading this? So I did not read that. Are we supposed to know what the intrusion trigger is?
No, that's the thing. It's at my discretion at any time. If you roll a 1, I'm supposed to intrude. But Jim.
But I think in like the character things, like there are specific things that we can do that would trigger an intrusion.
That is probably for me. I didn't read it because I think that's a good call out. If you're a brand new GM, go read those. They're going to be great.
Based on focus, I believe.
That's probably something the book provides for newer GMs to have inspiration for when should I intrude. I've not read those personally because I think I'm mostly confident in my ability to sort of stick my hand in the most, moment that I think will make the most tense. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, there are some abilities that guarantee a GM intrusion, but I don't think you get XP from those because you initiated that intrusion. So
you triggered it.
It's not an organic one, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So to answer your question, yes, you need to know your abilities. If your ability says like if you do this an intrusion happens, you need to know that so you can tell me. Obviously I look over y'all sheets, but especially as you level, I'm not going to be able to track everyone's abilities. So that falls under the idea of like know everything your abilities do. Okay. Are we good with that? It was the weirdest part one of the weirdest parts to me.
What I found easiest is I just announce the intrusion. Like, I'm actually going to intrude on that and add a caveat. That way everybody knows, like, I did something.
That's a
All
fun
right.
little feature, though, from like
It
a
is.
GM perspective.
It is interesting. I
It's
like
gonna
it. Gives y'all
throw
XP.
like M Night Shyamalan hooks at you.
I like that it gives y'all XP. I think it's cool. In addition, I am going to give XP um when you meet characters, maybe when you pass a certain part of the story, when you do this or that. Like I said, I'm gonna try to throw a lot of it at you guys because I'm gonna try to get you through all 6 tiers in 30-ish sessions. Um, we'll see. I don't really know how long it will take. I've never run the system before. I don't know how long it's supposed to take, right? Um, so it may feel weird for a little while because I may just be slinging it at you to try to get y'all to the next tier for the next part of the story. We'll find out. We're all finding out together. For 2 XP, you can gain a skill for a short time. And that's usually we're thinking like a couple of hours, 10 at the most, or something like that. You can gain a skill, and so the book is not very clear, but the implication to me is that you can gain a skill permanently, but it only applies to a very specific use case or geographic location. So, like, the book uses the idea of like you're good at fishing in these specific lakes because you grew up, and this particularly for this, you might decide in the middle of session, oh, I grew up fishing these lakes. I should be I should be trained in fishing these lakes. But you didn't call that out ahead of time. You're kind of making that up in the moment to help with to facilitate the game. You would need to pay 2 experience points, and then you would get to keep that skill.
Oh, okay.
You've kind of added on to the narrative in the middle of the game and paid experience to do so, and
That's
gained
cool.
a skill out of it. It is sort of interesting, isn't it?
I like that.
So the other one it gives for 2 experience is you gain a new ability for a very short time. So in my games, this will be like 1 combat. You want to pay 2 experience to have a skill you didn't have for 1 combat. Um, the book says very short time. Obviously, that's going to vary from situation to situation. Y'all know I'm decently flexible in how long the time might be depending on what you're trying to do. I hope y'all feel by now that you just tell me what you're trying to do. I'll work with you to get to something that's, good for both of us, good for everybody. Any questions? We're going to 3 XP. Sick.
You.
For 3 XP, you can get a long-term story benefit, and often with a little bit amount of narrative input. So this is like a larger example of, you're not super sure where to go, or you're not super sure how to get to the next place, or to get the next bit of information you need. So you say, oh, okay, you say something along the like similar I mentioned earlier. I grew up here, so I should be good at fishing these forests. So maybe you say, oh, actually, I have a friend that I know in town that is well versed in this thing we need to know. Let's go talk to him. And you kind of want to like improv that in the middle of the narrative. You would need to pay 3 experience points to do something like that. Um, that's a little bit of a clunky example, but that's sort of my understanding of what. Oh, there are bullet points. I'm so sorry. So, one of the things that it mentions is gain a contact. So, that's the example I just used, right? You want to suddenly improv that you know this person that can help. 3 experience. You want to say, oh, well, actually, I'm, um, actually, I got a job as XYZ, or you need to pay 3 experience. If this says build a house, 3 experience. I'm assuming that means you get it quickly, as in like, oh, I have a house, and you didn't have a house before we started the game. Pay 3 experience, and yeah, we can say you had a house. You've got a house built. That's my understanding, sort of how this works. The last one is wealth. Um, I don't know exactly how that would work. It sounds like maybe if you decided halfway through the campaign that, oh, I'm from a rich family, you might could pay 3 XP to suddenly make that canon. Does that make sense? Y'all get where I'm going with these? Just keep in mind that that amount of narrative input you get can be limited by the nature of kind of my job as an arbiter and someone who has to keep the story fair for everyone involved. I may or may not have to limit whatever it is that you're trying to do. Anything else before we go on to the 4 experience points? Is this Rocky Top again? Indeed. All right, y'all. We talked about earlier, and actually it looks like the only thing that you need to use 4 experience points at a time for is those level advancements that we talked about. Those are written out. I'm not gonna read them out because that kind of sucks. I know it's hard to to listen and comprehend. You all can read them in the Discord. If you're listening to this video, ask your GM to send them to you. If you're the GM, go look in the book. If you ain't got the book, I can't help you. And you'll see the 4 things that characters can do to advance to the next tier. I will go ahead and call out to you guys because I wasn't able to earlier. Those kind of optional, that extra options that you guys have. Again, only one of them counts towards the 4 that you need. But those optional ones for 4 experience are that you can reduce the cost of wearing armor so it doesn't make you as slow. You can add 2 to your recovery rolls. That's kind of cool. There's another one that you can only do at tier 3 or higher, and it lets you take another focus ability. Also kind of cool. The last one is that you can select another ability from your type. So it's essentially an extra ability. Kind of neat.
So what's the difference between that and a focus ability? What is a focus ability?
So your type is explorer. So if you
Yep.
took that option to select another character ability, you could go get another ability out of the explorer list there, out of that type. Focus is for you, it's who applies themselves. So if you were to take that, select another focus ability, you would go. It's at tier 3. It specifies it needs to be tier 3. So you have to be tier 3 or higher. You would go pick another one of those focuses, like Robert's was cast shadows. You would go pick another one that's not applies themselves. You would look at the tier 3 ability and you would add it to your character sheet.
So focus ability is like class ability. Character ability is like special ability.
So your type is like your class. So that's like the abilities you got to pick 4 to start with. So that's when it says when you pick a character ability from your type, that's what it's talking about. Character ability is from your class. Sorry, I'm trying to piece together how to answer this in the way that you asked it. Does that make sense? Character abilities from your class, from your type, from Explorer. Focus ability.
Focus ability is who applies themselves.
Yes, it's from that one.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's like if you go look up that particular focus in the book, there are things that you gain when you go up a level, and sometimes you have to choose one or the other. And with that one, you would be able to choose an additional one based on your tier.
Or one from another type.
Almost like a subclass, but like a multi-class at the same time.
No, Josh is right, because it says select another focus ability available to you at tier 3. So Josh is right. It lets you go back and pick one you had to skip before. Good call out, Josh. I missed that.
So
only
no
read the book a little bit.
A multi-class within the same class. It's like multi-classing subclasses.
All right.
I know. I'm sorry. It didn't make a ton of sense. It made sense to my brain. It's
Now,
like
when you said fish in these forests earlier, was that like a subconscious joke?
no,
Bad.
I'm not good at jokes. You know I don't make jokes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so like at tier 3 for yours, which I won't spoil, but if you go look up like flies themselves, you have to choose between one or another option. And if you spent those 4 experience points, you could then choose the option you left behind at that tier to have both of
So
them.
when you went up to tier 4, you could use that optional option to go back and pick the tier 3 one you didn't pick the first time. By the time we get there, this may be so far behind us we don't remember, but that's what YouTube's for. Okay, y'all. This is your last chance. Because that's all I really had to talk about. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. If I didn't, we're gonna cover it while we play. Because that's spoiler alert, if you're a GM watching this, a lot of times it's easier to just teach people while you play. Otherwise, they have to sit and listen to you talk for 2 hours like these guys did, and it's hard to retain shit when people talk to you for 2 hours. All right,
Alright, so let's get into combat.
y'all have any
All right,
questions?
everybody
for
roll
us?
initiative.
No,
Ready.
like y'all had already said, this seems to be a lot less combat. Like, we're gonna die a lot more if we try to fight as much.
Yeah, you might. It seems scary, and it is, and because you can't find as many ways to add damage. Your shotgun always does
man.
4 damage. Your little pistol always does 2 damage. You know, that sort of changes. It becomes much more about finding ways, taking cover, or doing things to hinder their ability. I'm sorry. It would be ease for you guys, your dodging rolls, and to ease your attack rolls.
One thing we didn't talk about that we probably should mention is when you go down the damage track, it always goes left to right on your abilities unless specified otherwise. So like when you take damage, it's always going to be might first, and when that hits 0, then you go to speed. Unless something does damage that specifies like this specifically attacks your speed pool, or this specifically attacks your intellect.
I see what you're saying. That makes sense to y'all. So
It always
so
starts at might unless specified otherwise.
yeah, so if I just say 7 damage, you start with might, you start with speed, then you go to speed and you go to intellect. There will be probably many times where I'm specifying you take might damage, or you take intellect damage, or you take speed damage. That's probably going to be pretty common. But if I don't say anything, if I don't specify, and your might is empty, you would go to speed. If your speed and your might were empty, you would go to intellect. Also, good call out.
That was all I had. Good comprehensive overview, my man.
I did my best. We got any more questions before I turn this off? All right.